Good evening. It's been a while since I've talked. This is Joku, the man they call Mr. Cool, live again tonight. Hey, I've been at work lately, just been working, keeping, busy lately. Haven't been doing too much. But tonight I'd like to talk about one thing tonight. Mr. Cool would like to talk about. We're going to talk about a very interesting bug. I don't know if it's called a bug or what kind of insect it is, but it's a spider. Of course, it's kind of interesting because you look at it and you look around and you think to yourself, hey, I just saw a spider. Is it going to bite me? Let's think about that. There's been situations in life where many of us have seen a spider. But it's interesting. It's an interesting insect. I don't know if it's known as an insect or whatever, but a spider pretty much is what a lot of people think is. If they see a spider on the wall, they see a spider crawling on the floor or whatever. A lot of people kind of think it's a creepy thing. It's scary. If they see a spider. But yeah, you never know you never know when you see a spider because it's just crawling on the floor. It could be anywhere crawling. But mostly, what am I trying to tell everybody about spiders? Let's figure it out here. All in life, we've seen spiders everywhere. And we think about a spider, if it's a daddy long legs or if it's one of these big tarantulas, black widows, other spiders we may have seen, a brown recluse, and different spiders. There probably are these little small baby spiders too. I've seen them. But there's so many interesting spiders, that I think there's a house spider. There's also a wolf spider. But they're kind of interesting because you don't know what to expect when you see a spider. Some people are afraid of spiders, and some people might just have spiders for pets, Like there's people I've seen on shows where they have pet spiders, and I think to myself, oh, that's cool. A tarantula, I've seen people on TV shows that have pet tarantulas, and I think to myself, that's kind of a creepy thing to think about. I mean, if you got a spider crawling on you, you're wondering, can they bite you, Because you don't know what a spider can do. But the thing is, they crawl, and they're crawling. And people say spiders, in a way, is like a good thing. But some people say it could mean the same thing as an evil thing. But really, I don't know. Mr. Cool doesn't know anything about spiders, but what he does know about spiders, they like to hide in dark places, And it seems like with spiders too, is that if you see a spider, it seems like the spider actually knows that you're going toward the spider. You might be walking toward a spider, or you're approaching the spider, and all of a sudden the spider either runs away from you, or the spider will run actually at you. Maybe it's trying to tell you something like, well, what am I going to do to the spider right now? Am I going to crush him? Am I going to pick him up and, throw him outside? But, a spider's a spider no matter what. They say they eat other bugs, and, you see them on crawling everywhere. I've seen spiders at work. It's interesting. They're like the same as an ant. Ants are everywhere. Flies are everywhere. It's interesting because as I think about it, as it said in the Bible about talking about an interesting thing too was all these, in Genesis, in the Bible of Genesis, how God had breathed into a woman and a man, and it became Adam and Eve in Genesis. But I thought to myself today in the Bible about Genesis, how the Bible says in that verse of Genesis how the world was created, and and us were created by the dirt of what they said, by God breathing into the nostrils of a man, and then breath into the life of a Eve. But you think about that, it's just how the Bible talks about that. But mostly tonight's topic, like I was telling you about, it's that you see these things, like when they talk about all in the beginning, how God breathed into a man, and a man became a man, Adam and Eve, the breath of life. But it's interesting that, in these times, going back and thinking about that in Genesis, scripture in the Bible, that I look at and I see myself. I think, okay, that's interesting how God, created these beautiful things and everything, and insects, birds that fly in the sky, and we see everything, the sky, the ocean, the water, but mainly it's not about the topic being about spiders only, but it's still about spiders. But it's interesting what I'm talking about, because that you think about in the Bible how man became man, and then woman became woman in Genesis. How the God breathed there, and then after that, all these things God, created. The light and the sky and the night, but the miracle of God's miracles in life, how Adam and Eve came into the world, and then from there talking about birds, the fowls of the sky, and all these creepy crawling things and stuff. And you tell yourself, okay, were there spiders back in the Bible days? Back in the days when there was, during Abraham, and even let's go to Adam and Eve, too, the first two that were created. Let's think about that. Thinking about in the garden, when they were out in the Garden of Eden, and still talking about spiders, because we think, how did spiders come into the world? And it's why I'm talking about spiders, bringing out spiders, because I realize that it's just a miracle that a spider just comes into the world like a baby comes into the world. But think about it. If God created Adam and Eve, how did the first spider come into the world? We think about that. We might think, yeah, we think it's probably from Genesis, of course, how, Adam and Eve came into the world, and from there we had in the scriptures of Genesis it talked about the birds, and it talked about, like, you know, that these different, the waves, the oceans, how the world came into existence in Genesis. But I thought was interesting is when they talked about locusts and all these other things in the Bible. And about, I guess, about cattle and stuff like that. I guess it was more about that when they had the bread of life and stuff like that, that and fishing in the oceans, wherever, how they could actually get all these fish to feed the, in the Bible of the man that couldn't catch a fish, and then when Jesus got onto the ship, that all these fish were mysteriously came up. It was just a miracle. But it was just interesting as I talk about spiders. We think about that. I don't know if anybody's listening tonight, but yes, spiders are popular because it's like, why talk about spiders? But it's interesting when I'm talking about spiders, because I think about spiders, because when you see them, you think about that, okay? And understand that if you see a spider, you might be panicky. You might be scared that you're seeing a spider because, you want to grab it and get rid of it, throw it outside, or just flush it down the toilet, and hopefully it won't bite you. But it's interesting with spiders because you never know when you're going to see one. And sometimes people say with spiders too, is that spiders seem like they're afraid of people so much. They just, like, they know. It's like a spider knows when you approach him. Is he going to just sit there like this and not move? Or is he going to run away from you really fast? Or is he going to try to run at you, run right at you? That's the interesting thing about spiders. And they're interesting little creatures because with a spider crawling, if it's a big spider or if it's a small little spider, but you always think about it, because if it crawls on you, it's like a bee. It's like a bee. You don't know what to expect. With any insect, even a bee, it lands on you or crawls on you. And if a bee stings you for no reason, that could be the same thing with a spider. You're not doing nothing wrong to the spider. You're just sitting down on the couch. You might be watching a movie. Then, all of a sudden, you feel that burning sensation in your foot. Then you're like, why am I in so much pain? Why is this going through? I'm in so much pain. Then you realize that you got bit by a spider. But then you tell yourself this. Why did that spider bite me? Why did the spider bite me? Like they say, the little bitty spider went up the wall. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. You know that kid's song from back in the days, Itsy Bitsy Spider. But why I'm saying that is because spiders are something. Because they land on you, or they crawl on you. It's like a bee or a fly. They land on you and they crawl on you. Then that's when you realize you either get scared and terrified. Oh no, this spider is crawling on me. You want to knock it off of you because it's crawling on you. Or you just want to capture the spider and put it outside. But while you're trying to pick up a spider and put it outside, the thing just runs away from you. What is the mind of a spider? Is my question. And why I'm making this serious is because, yeah, spiders are smaller than a lot of things in the world today. There's spiders everywhere. But then I think about going back in the Bible days when I had talked about earlier. Was there spiders back then during Adam and Eve? That would be an interesting question. Anybody know? That's what I'm really curious about. Because in Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, that's a question I have for all of my followers on my Mr. Cool podcast. And anybody, my family, friends, my best friends for life, what do you think of spiders? Tell me what you think. You see them? Are you afraid of spiders? We might have fear of spiders. I think a fear of spiders is arachnophobia. You know, you got a fear of spiders. But they're interesting creatures. As I close for the tonight, if you see a spider, be aware of the spider. Because they even have a spider out now that it's crazy to say, but it's a spider, but it's a silver spider. And you definitely don't want to get bit by a silver spider because that's the chip. What do you think about a chip? That's called a chip spider. There is a spider known as a chip spider, but inquiring minds want to know. If you really want to know what a chip spider is, do research on it. It's a silver spider. It's just like a silver mosquito. But they both bite no matter what. And it's probably one of the worst bites you can probably get out of any insect. The silver spider. You don't see them that much, but we'll question, what is a silver spider? You probably never heard of that before, but that's another subject about spiders we're talking about tonight. A silver spider. Okay. Inquiring minds want to know, what is a silver spider? Anyway, I don't want to talk about the silver spider anymore. There's the black spider. I've seen brown spiders. But as we know, spiders come in sizes. Different sizes of spiders. There's small spiders. There's medium-sized spiders. And there's also the large ones. But when you see a large spider, you definitely get worried because you're like, okay, that thing is coming at me. Did I offend it? Did I upset the spider? Tell me. I don't know what I did. I must have upset the spider. But now, if it's a big spider, either he's going to run away from me or he's going to run at me. But what I'm trying to say about spiders is it's important because I tell myself, everyone has a fear. And a lot of people do fear spiders because it's like a bee, but only it's not like a bee. It's like anything. It crawls on you. We get scared. We think about ourselves. But mostly, let's talk about this tonight. Spiders are very creepy. Yes, they are. And why I'm talking about spiders is because they're very interesting. They're very creepy. Some people like spiders, some people don't. Because if you see a spider, people are going to be like, oh no, there's a spider on the floor. Is he going to, let's get rid of it, let's get rid of it. A lot of people panic when they see a spider. I mean, I do. Trust me, Mr. Cool kind of looks at down and it's like, oh man, there's a spider on the floor. Is he going to bite me? Oh no. If you see a spider on the wall, that's even interesting. Because we all fear and get scared of spiders. But you never know if a spider's going to hurt you or not. If you upset a spider, it will probably bite you. Or if you try to, do anything to upset a spider, don't do that. But anyway, I just have to say, the subject of spiders comes to a conclusion tonight. Good night, everybody. I'm drinking something called a very good root beer, by the way. But it's an interesting beer. I don't know if you can see it, Mr. Cool. Everybody forgive me, but this is a beer called Dragon's Stout. It tastes like Guinness, but it's pretty strong. It's a stout, but it's very good beer. I only drink once in a while. I don't drink anymore, except once in a while. Very rare, like once a month. So everybody forgive me, because I have been sober for several weeks. But tonight, I got a little, thinking about March 10th. I'm going to be a lot older than I am today. Be 1 year older. Anyway, just want to say good night to all my friends, family, my best friends for life. My two very best friends for life. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. My best friend for life, Miranda, and my best friend for life, Santiago. You two are my best friends for life. Good night to all my family and friends, and two of my best friends for life. I love everybody. Peace, love, and happiness. Good night.